Hello, I'm Leela, if you don't already know. Today I want to post something that I've been wanting to post about for a long time, but I haven't quite been in the place to do that. And now I feel like I am. So I'm just going to share with you a little bit of my experience over the past few years and what that's led me to. So when I was living in Toronto, there was a 6-month period where I witnessed the death of 3 people, and one person was severely injured. These were all separate events, and one of the people I went to at an event, one of the people died from an overdose, and I noticed it before anyone else and tried to get this person help, and they were on my lap as I was holding them and speaking to them, and very soon after that they drew their last breath. There was another one, 2 others were both women, bike accidents, and I was on a bike both times. When I was behind the other one, I was just seconds in front. And the 4th one was someone that had a really terrible fall down some very steep stairs and fell through giant glass and ended up covered in giant shards of glass and was knocked out unconscious, and I was the only one there and able to call the ambulance to get her some help. So these events happened so close to each other, and it really put me through a mental health awareness and struggle. It was really, really difficult, especially reflecting on it afterwards and trying to understand why I was there and why in all these situations I was the only person that helped or could help, and really just the meaning of death and how that shapes us and what that does to us. And from those experiences I got pretty severe post-traumatic stress disorder, also known as PTSD, and this is something where it can look different for everyone, but for me I was experiencing death flashbacks every minute probably, for probably a couple of years, and it also caused me to have quite a few out of body experiences, and I do want to explain that while I was going through this, it very much felt like I was broken and I wasn't ever gonna be okay, and I was never gonna be myself, and that the healing wasn't really possible. And I basically just felt like a crazy person, and I felt like I was trapped in my own head, in my own body, trapped so much that I would try to talk about it, but at the same time the truth was that I was so afraid of continuing to live as myself because it was so difficult. So it was heavy, of course, and I kind of wanted to share how I have not come out of the other end, because I don't think that is a realistic thing to say, but how I have learnt to live with this and what I have done to help my brain heal. These out of body experiences I was having, they weren't in a sort of the out-of-body experiences that I was having were in a very frightening way. I would be doing something mundane, like getting bread off the shelf at the grocery store, and all of a sudden I would feel myself fall on the floor, and I'd also still be standing up holding the loaf of bread, and I didn't know if I was on the floor or if I was holding the loaf of bread, because I was in both places at the same time. And that happened to me a lot. That happened to me when I was just at work. That happened to me when I was doing just mundane tasks that you do every single day. And it happened to me quite often. To the point where I thought, I can't have kids. I had to, any idea of me going back into the acting world was not even a possibility, because there were days I couldn't remember my phone number. I couldn't really remember what year it was. I couldn't remember the smallest things, never mind a script. And so that was a big shift for me as well, to recognize that and know that I needed to heal, which was part of the journey for me, coming back here, build the tiny house and all that, which was a big part of the lifestyle shift and all that. But the reason I really think I got led to this was because of these events happening and the way that they affected me. And yeah, the reason I do want to talk about this is just, if anyone else has gone through something like this, it's really difficult to find help. There are a lot of books and a lot of help out there for people that have experienced death and loss of a loved one, which of course is a type of trauma that I haven't experienced in the way that some of my closest friends have, and that's a pain that I can only imagine. I don't know that pain because I haven't lived it. And when it came to this, I realized that the only thing people had really written about was people who had been to war. That was the only thing I could find, because I didn't know these people that died in front of me. I didn't know them at all. They were complete strangers. But somehow they were complete strangers to me, and that completely changes the experience, because I didn't have the emotional loss of mourning a human I knew. It was just witnessing something that was very upsetting, gory, very real, very human, and not knowing their name or anything about them. So eventually, after some time, which sounds ridiculous now saying it out loud, that it took me some time to seek out a therapist, but it did. It took me some deep amount of brain power and self-realization to go, okay, maybe you're not crazy, and if they hear you, they're not going to lock you up in a sane asylum. Maybe you just need to go speak to someone, because that was honestly what I was afraid of. I was afraid that I would talk about this experience I'm now speaking to you about, and a therapist would be like, okay, call the take her away, she's lost it, because that's how I felt, and I was afraid of that. And there's been mental health issues in my family, in my bloodline, and so that was a very real fear for me. So I did. Anyways, I ended up seeking out a therapist. I tried a couple different ones, and then the one I ended up sticking with is a lady that's local here, and she does EMDR, which is a therapy that includes rapid eye movements, which has been explained to me in the way that it's like the trauma lives in the brain like an avocado pit in a carburetor, and it can't process it. So your body will continue to live in the fight or flight and in the stress and the trauma, and it will keep sending signals to your body that this is happening right now, because it hasn't processed it. It's in your brain, it's always happening in this moment. So that made a lot of sense to me, because I was experiencing panic attack, anxiety attacks, these out of body experiences and flashbacks all the time. And suddenly that kind of made sense that I was experiencing that. So I'm still continuing this work. I'm not by any means finished with it, but I would say since the winter, so it would be close to a year coming up, that I have been working doing EMDR, and that has helped me process so much. Another thing that I have been doing is I did a lot of looking into microdosing with psilocybin, which is something that is a newer, it's not new therapy, it's ancient therapy, but it's therapy that is now being scientifically proven to help people with PTSD and Alzheimer's and things to do with the brain injuries, brain sickness, which is exactly what I had and still have. So there's this company called Neurobotanicals, and I took their neurobotanical called Calm, and it has completely, what it does is it helps your brain to find new neural pathways. So when you're processing trauma, it can actually help to find new neural pathways, so your brain isn't going down the same commonly used path that it does when it goes to the trauma, because that's what your brain has learned. So you're basically creating new ones, so it has a different avenue to go down. This one is blended with ashwagandha and reishi and L-theanine, and this one has really helped. I just would take one capsule twice a day and do that every 3 days. So I really believe that this is what has helped me get to the place that I am now, and I'm not in the place where I'm 100% flashback free, or I'm not in the place where I feel there's times when I still feel it really hurts and it's very difficult, but for the most part it has given me my life back. I didn't think that I had a chance of being me again, and yes, I have changed a lot since this has happened. I've learned so much. I've learned so much about the brain and mental health, but I've also learned a lot about people, and more than anything about myself, and how important it is to ask for help. It took me a long time to get there, and I wish that I had someone say, hey, if you've gone through this, you should go to therapy, you should try EMDR, you could try this microdosing, because I would have got here faster, but then I wouldn't have had this journey to be able to share, I guess. So there's a reason for everything. But yeah, I'm definitely getting better, and the person I was before all this stuff happened is definitely different to the person I am now. But embrace change, because things must, as do we, as does out there.